just driving to the grocery store in my 15-year-old Mercedes that I own outright. And why is that important, right? I'm thinking about how the idea of money and ownership has changed radically since my parents were born. My parents are baby boomers. When they were born, the US dollar was still on the gold standard, backed by gold. Dimes, quarters, and half dollars still had 90% silver content. So in about $1.25, maybe less, you had an ounce of silver, right? I was born in the 90s. I would say back when I was growing up, cash had a much bigger role that it played in society. Now we're moving more so to this cashless society. Most people I know pay for things with a card, whether it be a debit card or a credit card. So, this idea of money over not that long of a period of time turned from something that had intrinsic value that had commodity backing to all the way to present day where there is no commodity backing, right? It's fiat money backed by the law of the US government. And now it's just money on the screen, right? You tap to pay for things, with money that you may or may not have, right? You might be spending on the credit card. But regardless, I believe that with this whole money on the screen thing, we're not as sensitive to inflation because we don't see it as much. We don't see that same amount of physical money leaving our hand today. And outside of that, right, ownership, this idea of even when I grew up, people owned movies that they wanted to watch, but now we subscribe to streaming services. There's probably an argument to be made that the quality of our vehicles, our appliances, are not to the same level that they were before. People aren't buying them with their money that had intrinsic value. They might even be buying them on a subscription plan, right? Money leaves our accounts to all the apps that we're subscribed to. So here at Latin America Connect, we know that ownership is important, right? Owning assets, not being on the constant hamster wheel of, having a job and having your cost of living be dictated by outside things that you don't have ownership in, while your employer is putting a cap on how much you can make, etc. So with that being said, we're exploring investments, lifestyle, residency around Latin America that might give you a better shot at, owning assets, having a good work-life balance, etc., owning businesses, in a way that might not be as possible here in the US. Personally, I can afford my lifestyle in the US for sure. I was lucky enough I owned houses in my early 20s, right? But at the same time, man, I see the quality of life that I get for the money here, and it just doesn't always make sense, man. I feel like there's more true value in some of those economies of the global South, right? Around Latin America, around the Caribbean. So I'm rambling a bit here, but follow along for more. And if this is interested in you, send me a DM. We can hook up for a consult. I can kind of see what your goals are and make recommendations based on your needs, where some of the best paths might be to explore in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.